Do yourself a favor, Brody. Don't wait. Because all the money, all the women, even all the comic books in the world, they can't substitute for that one person.
I don't know, all the comics in the world?
Trust me, true believer. Well,
hey everyone. This is spur of the moment kind of video. I don't really know if I'm gonna be able to get through the video, but if you're watching the video, this is gonna act as a tribute video to Stan Lee. You know, Stan the Man Lee, you know, one of the founders of Marvel Comics, created all the amazing characters that you know and love, like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men, and Doctor Strange, and Ant-Man, and you could literally just go on the list, the Avengers, all his cameos in all these movies. The man is just responsible for so much entertainment, for changing so many lives, inspiring so many writers and people in the industry. His influence on the world will last until the end of time. These characters will last till the end of time. Well, as long, you know, as long as comics are published, and they will last forever. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to showcase some of my favorite Stan Lee stories, specifically in the Amazing Spider-Man title. So, these range for, you know, because he did like the first 100 issues, I think. So these are just some of my favorites. Okay, so first up, this is Amazing Spider-Man number 39. And this is a really great issue because this is the first time that he teamed up with artist John Romita Sr. And together they told a story where, in comics at the time, the villain never knew the hero's secret identity. You know, no one was ever supposed to know, because if someone knew the hero's identity, then their whole family and their life would be in jeopardy. So in this issue, the Green Goblin learns that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, friend of his son, Harry Osborn's. And, you know, in the following issue, they fight to the death. And then Norman gets amnesia and forgets about him. And then, you know, he'll eventually become the Green Goblin again. But this was just a great, the hero and the villain discovering each other's identities, where, you know, one being the son of, you know, it's the son's best friend, and the other one is the father of his best friend. It's very dramatic, and I love it. Another great story, issue 42. The reason I love this comic right here is because of the introduction of Mary Jane Watson. Yeah, guys, what I was trying to say, they were building up Mary Jane over 42 issues. Her name was brought up several times, and Aunt May always wanted her and Peter to meet each other because he always had trouble with girls.
because he was shy, he wasn't that successful with girls, he had to worry about his family.
Stanley always wanted Spider-Man to be relatable with teenagers.
I think most teenagers reading it thought to themselves, hey, that could be me.
Okay, Spider-Man's completely enveloped in his costume.
Oh, you know
it's
the
that
good
air
thing
of
about
mystery,
that?
Yes.
You could be any kid.
Yeah.
You could be black, you could be Asian, you
Right.
could be Indian, you could
Right.
be anything, and imagine you were in that costume.
Right.
So I think that made it relevant to everybody everywhere.
Right.
And that was accidental. I mean,
Right.
I don't think we planned it that way, but
Right.
it was very fortuitous.
And most teenagers would struggle to go on dates with girls, you know, can't get the girl, makes the hard choice, even, you know, it's the hardest choice is always the right choice. Peter would always make the hardest choice. You know, And I feel like every day people struggle to make the right choice, and sometimes that they can't. And that's what makes Spider-Man such a powerful character, because he always makes the right choice even when it's the hardest decision to make. And that's what people struggle with on a daily basis. And responsibility always comes first to Peter Parker. And how they meet on the last page is amazing, because we hadn't seen her face. We had heard her name several times throughout the series. And when we first saw her, she was drawn beautifully by John Romita. And she came in and said, "Face a tiger, you just hit the jackpot." So all these years, we were wondering if Peter would ever get the girl. And he finally got the girl. And so great. And the next one that's really good is ASM, 56. And I love this story because Spider-Man is the greatest superhero ever. And we never thought he could ever, be capable of doing, heinous or evil things. And in this issue, he teams up with Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man gets knocked on the head in one of his battles with Dr. Octopus and forgets who he is and loses his memory briefly. And Doc Ock convinces Spider-Man that they are partners in crime. And Spider-Man actually helps Dr. Octopus in stealing a device called the Nullifier, and actually does some damage to his name, because J. Jonah Jameson wants to prove to the public if he's a threat or a menace or both. And Spider-Man kind of proves that he is dangerous to the public. And this is also the first appearance of Captain George Stacy, the father of Gwen Stacy, who's one of my favorite characters. Another great one, Amazing Spider-Man 68. Stanley was, he was so great with current times, what people were dealing with. People always say, keep my politics out of comics. I tend to agree, but he did it in a way where it didn't bother people. So in this issue, the Kingpin is trying to steal a tablet from Empire State University. And the teens outside are protesting, and Gwen Stacy and Peter are among the teenagers protesting outside of ESU. And when the Kingpin tries to steal the tablet, Peter has to get away from Gwen Stacy and fight off the Kingpin, and the Kingpin gets away with the tablet. So Spider-Man loses the fight, and Gwen Stacy is left defending Peter Parker when someone calls him a coward for leaving and running away. And, her hitting the guy, saying, he's twice the man you are, but then kind of thinks to herself, is he really the man I think he is? One of the most powerful stories in comics is Amazing Spider-Man 90. At the end of a battle with Dr. Octopus, Doc Ock accidentally hits concrete and part of a building falls, like debris from a building falls on civilians below. And Captain Stacy is beneath the building and pushes a kid out of the way from being hit by the debris and is killed by the falling debris. And Spider-Man is seen carrying Captain Stacy up the building. And Gwen Stacy always blamed Spider-Man for the death of her father, always. And the fact that she never knew her boyfriend was Spider-Man. Peter always felt that guilt, and you have to be a really good writer to think of something like that. The fact that the person you're in love with blames you for the death of her father. It's just insane. And the last thing that Captain Stacy says to Spider-Man was to protect Gwen Stacy and look after her. And he always knew Peter was Spider-Man. He never told Gwen. He never told anybody else. He didn't care. He knew Spider-Man was not a threat and that he was a hero. And all he wanted was for Peter to protect Gwen. That's all he wanted in the end. And the last book is Amazing Spider-Man 97. Stan Lee pushed the boundaries in ways no one ever did. These comic books, Amazing Spider-Man 96, 97, and 98, did not get the Comics Code of approval by the Comics Code Authority because Stan Lee wanted to, again, talk about current issues. He wrote a story about drugs and drug use. And, and at the time, pill poppers, that was like a big thing in the late 60s, early 70s, and he wanted someone close to Peter to be affected by, drug use. And Harry Osborn, son of the Goblin, becomes addicted to, heavy drugs, and, Peter has to fight off a bunch of drug dealers who are, messing with Harry's mind, and just that Peter has to take a break from fighting the Green Goblin to facing real-world threats, like, this is something that goes on every day, like dealing drugs is wrong, Stan was trying to set a message to people, not promote, drug use. Stan always wanted to reach the public eye, and he always did that with Spider-Man. Like I said, nothing ever comes easy. He wanted Peter to be relatable to us. Growing up, I wanted to be Spider-Man. I wanted to be Peter Parker, but then I realized that in a way I was Peter Parker. I was Spider-Man. Not just by reading these stories and experiencing what he experienced, but when I got older, I could never get a date. It was hard driving a car around and hanging out with friends and dealing with friends who did drugs and seeing crime happen in the world and you wanting to do something about it and give a shit about it. And at the end of the day, you really do feel like Spider-Man because he is us. He's not just a fictional character, he is us. And that's just one of the characters that Stan created. And even if you're not a huge comic book fan, I guarantee you walked into the theaters and saw the Avengers and it changed your life. You walked into a theater and saw a Spider-Man movie and it changed your life. And you knew nothing about comic books. And now you go and watch these movies about superheroes and they take your breath away. And they all started right here in comics. We'll never see another person like Stan Lee ever. Ever. If you don't know it, he changed your life. There's no debating it. And yeah, he's in a better place. It's never to be continued. It's never the end. It's always to be continued. And Stan Lee's characters will always be to be continued. So, even though he's gone, everything that he touched will last forever. And I'll miss you, Stan. I hope I didn't go a little over the edge. I know I got emotional, but I did make it through this, and I love you, Stan. I hope you enjoyed this spur of the moment video. Let's do a little moment of silence for Stan. Okay, Stan, I know you're in a better place. Thank you for watching. Please comment if Stan affected your life in any way, how he affected your life, and what are some of your favorite Stan Lee stories and characters. Comment below, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace out.
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.